Hey everybody, welcome to Seattle Bike Blog TV. I am your host, Tom Fucaloro. I've got here my bike, and I thought I would talk a little bit about what I like about my bike, why I made certain decisions about it. This is the perfect bike for me. Doesn't mean this is the perfect bike for everybody. That's the great thing about bikes is there's so many different styles and options and accessories that you can get to make it fit exactly what it is that you're trying to do. In general, I avoid talking about bike hardware. Seattle Bike Blog's not a reviews channel. That's not really what this channel's about, and it's not going to be what this channel is about. But I do have lots of opinions, so I thought, hey, you all can see this and learn from it, and if you like it, then great. And if you don't, you can tell me in the comments below why all of the choices I made on my bike are the wrong choices. Feel free. My feelings cannot be hurt at this point because I love this thing and there's nothing that anyone can say that will change my mind about it. I really do subscribe to the belief that all bikes are beautiful. Whatever bike you have, if you love it, then it's wonderful and I love it too. You don't have to spend a lot of money on a bike in order for it to be a great tool for you and for it to perform well and get you around town. This bike I bought to replace a 1983 Nishiki bike that I bought off Craigslist when I first moved to Seattle. It was cheap, I didn't have very much money. And over the course of several years, every single part just about had to be replaced, which was kind of perfect, honestly, because I'm a tinkerer. So it gave me the opportunity to learn every part of the bike because I had to. So I actually really enjoyed fixing up that bike. It eventually died because the frame broke down by the bottom bracket and it was irreparable. And so I got a new bike that in some ways improved on my old bike, but also was of a similar style. So it's a Soma double cross that it's sort of styled off these cyclocross frames that were really popular. I'm not really sure if it's a good cyclocross frame, but that was how it was marketed. Bike marketing is always very funny. They go in these trends. With the marketing, don't get too trapped in the marketing. Bike frame is a bike frame. So modifications that I've made to it are numerous. One of my favorites is I have a dynamo hub. So it's wired up to this headlight, which is wired up to the tail light. And that means that when the wheel spins, the light automatically turns on and it's very bright and it's a very good headlight. And I never have to replace the batteries, which is great because I was not good at that. And also, I never have to think about it. So it's always ready to ride in any conditions. I just leave the light on even during the daytime. It's not the cheapest upgrade that you can get, especially if you already have a front wheel that works that doesn't have a dynamo hub. You kind of need to rebuild a new front wheel, which that's not cheap. But if any of you need a new front wheel anyway, that's the time to do this upgrade. My handlebars are very tall, and instead of having drop bars, which is more common on a road bike like this, I have upright bars that are a little swept back, so they come back towards me a little bit. And that's because I have some upper back pain, and crouching over for extended periods of time just gives me this weird stress pain where I can't really hold that position for a really long time, so I need to be able to sit a little more upright. So that's one part of this bike where this might not be optimal, but for me, I'd rather not be in tons of pain. A lot of people much prefer the drop-down style bars where they loop down like this because you can put your hands in multiple positions. So kind of for a long ride, you can keep mixing it up so that you don't have to just sit the same way the whole time. But for me, that's not really helpful. The newest addition to this bike are these purple pedals. I only ride with non-clipped pedals. I don't have any shoes with the little clips on the bottoms. And I used to have the toe clips where the little plastic or metal bit that goes over the top of your shoe. When I went to flat pedals like this, I didn't really notice a difference in how much power I was getting in each push or anything. The thinking is you can push down on the way forward and pull up on the way up. Maybe I just wasn't doing it properly or whatever, but I switched to platforms and I haven't looked back. So I can just wear any shoe I want. I wear sandals during the summer, and it's fine, and I love it. And I've gone on long tours without clips of any kind and been just fine. So it's got 2 speeds in the front and a pretty large range of gears in the back. The small chainring here and the large one in the back combine to give a pretty low gear, which is, I think, pretty key for a Seattle bike. You want to have a gear that when you're loaded down with groceries, you can go up a steep hill and you're going to make it. When I have to replace that cassette, I'm going to see if I can get an even bigger cassette in the back to work with this derailleur. I don't know if I can, but if I can, I'm going to do it, because you can always have a lower gear. I've never experienced a bike that had too low of a gear. This here is a cafe lock. This is kind of rare in America, but it's extremely common in Europe, where you just use your key and you just lock the back wheel so no one can ride away with your bike. They can lift it up and carry it away, but they can't bike away with it. I almost never use only the cafe lock. It's very rare. So if I'm within sight of the bike, I might just do it if there's not a convenient place to lock it up to anything. Mostly I use it in conjunction with a U-lock, and my thinking is 2 locks is better than 1. And this one just lives here. It doesn't weigh very much. It's completely out of the way. There's kind of no downside to it. I think it's easier than having a U-lock with a cable, which is the other way to secure your back wheel so that no one can steal your wheel. I've got a rear rack. I find this to be a pretty crucial piece. I can't imagine having a bike that does not have a rear rack. So my bike actually has rim brakes. It's got these cantilever brakes. They're fine. I like them because they're simple. You can see all of the parts. So if something were to go wrong on the side of the road, I should be able to at least figure out what's wrong and maybe come up with a fix on the spot. And that's what I like about them. Typically they're inexpensive. Replacing the brake pads is really inexpensive. Even on steep hills in the rain, they've got plenty of stopping power. A lot of people will tell you have to get disc brakes because they're so much better on the hills and in the rain. And they are better on the hills and in the rain, but they're not that much better. And rim brakes are fine. When this bike was made, disc brakes were not yet like the standard. These days, more and more disc brakes are becoming the standard. They were also kind of expensive when this bike was made. They added quite a premium to the price. These days, that's becoming less and less of an issue. The price difference between disc brakes version and rim brake version, if you can even find a rim brake version, really isn't that excessive. So at this point, I'd say, go with whatever you like, go with whatever you can afford. But also, if the bike you really, really like has everything you want except it has rim brakes instead of disc brakes, I don't think that's the end of the world. I don't think it actually matters. But, either way can be fine. I always have my U-lock mounted here. I kind of always have. Just because the U-lock is going to go with me everywhere I go anyway. Might as well live on my bike in the most convenient place possible. And there it is. It does block the second water bottle cage here. I never bike with 2 water bottles. But I could see a scenario when touring when it might make sense to take this off and put a bottle cage on there. But it's never happened yet for me. Because even on touring, I still want the lock. It also blocks the space where you can put frame bags. So frame bags are much more popular these days than they were when I built this out. Because honestly, if you put a frame bag in here, you can always put your lock in the frame bag. So there's just so many options now to carry things. It's really cool. It can be overwhelming at first, but ultimately it's a good thing because you can really customize your bike to exactly what you want. Have everything exactly where you want it, which is cool. I love that. I have a Brooks saddle, classic B17 leather saddle. Saddles are probably the most personal part of the whole bike, so I'm not going to tell you that this is the one you should get. The best thing to do is to try out lots of saddles. More expensive saddles are not necessarily better saddles. just whatever happens to fit you the best is going to be the best. Material doesn't really matter. Everybody's body is going to be different, so there's no like universal advice for saddles. So this seat is a more recent addition to the bike. It's my brand Doolittle, and it's for a kid, obviously. And so Fiona can climb up here and sit here, put her feet here, and she gets to kind of see what I see. And when I bike, I sort of like hug her a little bit, and I love it. It's just wonderful. This is like my favorite kid seat for a kid who is big enough that they can hold on, which honestly they can do that fairly young. Fiona's 4, but I bet that she could have done it when she was 3, and maybe even a little bit when she was 2. I'm not sure, but we just got this, so I didn't test it for her when she was younger. But she loves it. I love it. It's very lightweight and compact. It's out of the way. I have thoughts on how it could be better, but it seems to be pretty universally fitting. It can fit a lot of different styles of bikes. So if you're looking for a way to bike with a kid that is not just buying the whole kid seat thing and trying to put it on the rear of a bike, this could be a good option. The other thing that this does is if she's sitting here, then I can still put panniers on the back, my bag up here, and I have lots of hauling capacity even with her on the bike. Let's talk about tires. So I went and got these Rene Hurst tires that are softer than I usually go with. And I've watched enough Pathless Pedal videos to convince me, all right, I should get some supple tires and give that a try. I don't know if they're quite supple enough, but they're the size that I knew would easily fit with these fenders that I have. I don't know. I didn't notice the difference. I didn't notice lower tire pressure with a softer tire being any better of a ride quality than any other tire I've had, honestly. I'm just not big enough bike snob, I don't think, to notice. So my favorite tires I've ever had were Schwalbe Marathon Plus tires, which are lined with Kevlar. And I had a set that I never got a flat tire on the entire life of the tire. For like a year, you could see the like blue Kevlar lining shining through, because the rubber had completely rubbed off the top, and yet it still went and still never got a flat. The only reason I ever had to get rid of them was because the bike broke. This is on my previous bike. So the bike broke before the tire did. A set of tires that literally never got a flat. Biking around Seattle, everywhere around Seattle. I biked all around the region. I did bike tours on those things. Never got a single flat tire. So I don't usually do recommendations, but I'll just say the Marathon Plus tires, they're a little heavy, they're a little expensive, but if you don't like getting flat tires, I don't mind changing flats, so I like these tires just fine. But if you are really stressing a lot about which tires to buy, because there are kind of a lot of different opinions on tires, I guess my advice is it doesn't really matter. If it's a used tire and it's an older tire and you find yourself getting flats a lot, then it's time to get a new tire, But other than that, it doesn't really matter. I don't think that it matters. And as far as like what tire pressure to use, so the number on the side of the tire doesn't really mean anything. You can often go well over that number and you can go well under that number and it's fine. But for the ease of not having to think about it too much, if you fill it up to that number, then you're definitely going to be fine. I tend to pump up the tires these days a little higher just because if you put more air in it, you can go a longer time before you have to pump them up again. So I'm lazy. I've also got fenders. These are metal fenders. It doesn't matter what your fender is made out of, but you really need fenders in Seattle. If you're going to be everyday biking, I don't consider it optional. The falling rain can get you wet, that's for sure. but it's the road spray, especially off your front tire, onto your leg. Your leg's right here, and the road spray is just going to just drench your shoe and your shin if you don't have fenders, which is really uncomfortable. And you can get drenched even if it's not raining very hard, so long as the road is wet enough that your tire's picking up water. The front fender mostly protects you, and the back fender protects you a little bit. You don't get that like rooster tail of water that lands on your back, but it also really protects the person behind you. And definitely buy your fenders from a bike shop, because they'll probably install it for you for free if you buy it there. So that is worth every penny, because installing fenders can be a headache. So don't go online and buy your fenders online. Buy your fenders from a bike shop and have them install them. And that's my number one advice on fenders. My bike also has a kickstand. You can get one. This is a rear triangle kickstand, which are really great for bikes where there's too much going on under the bottom to fit all the kickstand stuff. It's nice to have a little offset if you're really loaded down. You can just hold more weight, especially if you have panniers on the back. The rear triangle kickstand can be great. The weirdest thing is how many people don't have kickstands. I just do not understand it. It's so convenient to have a kickstand. And they don't weigh very much, and they don't get in the way. I just don't see any downsides to having a kickstand. But then again, there's people who spend a lot of money on their bike, getting parts that are a couple grams lighter than another part. So I guess if you're doing that, and you're spending a lot of money to lose just a little bit of weight, not having a kickstand's a pretty easy one. Pretty easy little bit of weight to lose, but that's not what I'm concerned about, I guess. So saddle height. Honestly, it's a very tricky thing to dial in exactly what you want from saddle height. I'm not sure that I have it perfect here, but I have it, it's comfortable for me. In general, the rule that I've been told is when your pedal is all the way extended out, that you want to have a slight bend in the knee. And you don't want it to be hyperextended, right? And also, if you're experiencing knee pain when you're biking, a lot of times that's because your seat is too low or too high.
Okay, so let's talk real fast about what I carry with me pretty much anywhere I go. Spare tube, pump, and my tool roll, which has tire levers, 2 of them. 1 is not enough. Patch kit, old school with the glue and all that. Well, the vulcanizing solution. It's not glue. Adjustable wrench. This one I got for free. Somehow I want it. I think it's not very good. I wouldn't recommend this one. But an adjustable wrench of some kind is important. Allergy medicine. Those seasonal allergy sufferers like me don't want to get caught out without it. Bicycle multi-tool. I highly recommend one that has a chain breaker tool on it, which is this thing. Because if your chain breaks while you're on a ride, that's one of those parts that you can't just zip tie together. You really do, chain breaker, you can take a whole link out if you need to and reattach the working links. And your chain might be a little shorter than it's supposed to be, but it will work and it will get you to a bike shop where you can buy a new chain. So yeah, if you're going to be, especially if you're doing any touring, definitely bring a chain breaker with you. That's a tool that's hard to replicate elsewhere otherwise. Yeah, other than that, it's got all the hex, standard hex and Phillips and that. Zip ties. These are extremely important bike tools. It's amazing what you can do with zip ties. And zip ties are great both as a temporary fix while you're on the road, and also a permanent fix depending on the problem. And that's all I got in my tool roll. There's another video that I made that I'll link above that goes into why I prefer to fix a flat with patch kit whenever possible, versus just replacing it with a tube. Oftentimes you can fix a flat without taking your whole tire off and taking your whole wheel off, and that's great. Even on the side of the road, I'm into patching. Sometimes when it's raining really hard, patching's a little impractical because you have to try to keep it dry. But you always want to make sure that you find the spot where the puncture happened anyway, because you want to make sure there's not still glass or nail stuck in your tire. Because if you just rip out the tube that has a hole and put the new tube in, you might pump it up and then it immediately goes flat in the same spot. So I figure if I got to find the spot to investigate the tire and make sure I get all the stuff out anyway, then I've also found the spot I need to patch. So why not just patch it? I've also got a cycle computer, but I didn't want to be able to see my speed while I biked. I really just wanted it to be an odometer. So I hid it underneath my saddle here, and it just basically keeps track of my miles. So there you have it. That's my bike. And it might not be the perfect bike for everyone, but it's the perfect bike for me. And I hope that this was somewhat helpful, or at least somewhat interesting to all of you. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them either in the YouTube comments or on Seattle Bike Blog. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. We have a goal to try to reach 1,000 subscribers, and we've got a ways to go. So we could use your help, and thank you for watching, and take care. Safe riding.